Good morning. It is Tuesday, May the 28th, and this is The Drill. And thank you very much. My name is Ron, or Ronald T. Hardgrove, and this is my podcast called The Drill. And this podcast is about being a true conservative and the difference between being a true conservative and being a reactionary. It's about what true conservatism is and why it matters. For anybody that's interested, my email address is storytimes@hotmail.com. You're not a Trump supporter, are you? You're not a conservative, are you? So you believe that anyone who questions President Obama's nationality isn't racist, right? How you deal with these questions determines whether or not you are truly a conservative. What is a true conservative? Being truly conservative is about integrity. Maintaining your integrity is about listening carefully, reading carefully. It's about not getting tricked. It's about not allowing yourself to do the work of the left, about responding and not reacting. Integrity is also about how you live, not just how you vote. True conservatism is not merely a political identity, but a philosophical reality. True conservatism is fundamentally about being realistic, and being realistic is fundamentally about making the presumption for the status quo instead of making the presumption for change. Who are the true conservatives? They are the people that understand that conservatism is a lifestyle. They are patriotic people who use common sense. They trust their judgment, speak clearly and definitively, and are not afraid to say no. They are open-minded, asking why rather than why not. They are consistent, credible, and influential, not ashamed of their existence, unafraid to learn or correct their mistakes. In short, they are normal Americans. Okay, and today's memorial is from Special Forces _archive on Instagram. And this lists, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9 people, 9 soldiers that were killed in action. True silent professionals. Master Sergeant Joseph Andres, killed in action December 24th, 2005. And by the way, all of these individuals are Army. Sergeant First Class Lance Cornett, killed in action February 3rd, 2006. Sergeant First Class Richard Harema, killed in action April 25th, 2006. Master Sergeant Jared Van Alst, killed in action August 4th, 2010. Sergeant First Class Ronald Grider, killed in action September 18th, 2010. Master Sergeant Benjamin Stevenson, killed in action July 21st, 2011. Sergeant First Class Ryan Savard, killed in action October 13th, 2012. Master Sergeant Joshua Wheeler, killed in action October 22nd, 2015. Master Sergeant Jonathan Dunbar, killed in action March 30th, 2018. And so I'm assuming, I haven't looked at all of them. The one individual's picture I'm looking at right now, it says Special Forces Ranger, and I can't see the third tab, but let me see what we got here. This other individual, he has 3 tabs. He's got 3 tabs. That's a civilian picture. He's got 2 tabs. He's got 1. The point is that I believe that all of these folks that I just mentioned, yes, as a matter of fact, because it says Special Forces Archive, are all Special Forces operators that were killed in action. And when I come back, the concept of the day. And thank you very much. The concept of the day is from the Ayn Rand lexicon, and it is definitions. A definition is a statement that identifies the nature of the unit subsumed under a concept. It is often said that definitions state the meaning of words. This is true, but not exact. A word is merely a visual auditory symbol used to represent a concept. A word that has no meaning other than that of the concept it symbolizes. And the meaning of a concept consists of its units. It is not words, but concepts that man defines by specifying their reference. The purpose of a definition is to distinguish a concept from all other concepts, and thus to keep its units differentiated from all other existence. Since the definition of a concept is formulated in terms of other concepts, it enables man not only to identify and retain a concept, but also establish the relationships, the hierarchy, the integration of all his concepts, and thus the integration of his knowledge. Definitions preserve not the chronological order in which a given man may have learned concepts, but the logical order of their hierarchical interdependence. With certain significant exceptions, every concept can be defined and communicated in terms of other concepts. The exceptions are concepts referring to sensations and metaphysical axioms. Let's see here. A couple of things that when she's saying about words. The definition of word actually is that it is an arbitrary sensible sign with a meaning imposed on it by convention. So what was the other one I was looking at here? Oh, about a definition. The definition of definition is a genus with the differentia. That's the actual definition of definition. But there'll be more on definitions for the next couple of days. I just read a few paragraphs of it. But again, concepts are important. That's what modern human beings are all about. Concepts and abstractions. It is cavemen and people that are backwards and slow that are about storytelling and verbal picture painting. And by the way, so is the left. The left is all about encouraging our society to communicate in ways that are backward. So it's always a good idea to remind ourselves about concepts and abstractions and their use. So when I come back, I've got a rant, so to speak, that I want to go on about an article written by Maureen Dowd. Okay, so from the New York Times, Maureen Dowd is a columnist and opinion writer for the New York Times. There's some people that will say that the New York Times is nothing but opinion. But in any case, the only reason normally I'm not going to read from the New York Times or anyone in it, but I'm reacting to Hugh Hewitt this morning. I listened to Hugh Hewitt this morning, and he had his listeners call in to talk about this particular article. So let me go ahead and let me see if I can do it this way. No, it's not going to work like that, so I'm going to have to do it the sort of the hard way. So let me read the article, and then I'll go ahead and comment on it. Washington. Sometimes, as the light comes in my bedroom window and I start to wake up, my mind drifts to other things. I think about how talented Phoebe Waller-Bridge is, with her two mordant shows, Killing Eve and Fleabag. I think about how cool it would be to see Idris Elba resume his role as a world-weary London homicide detective in Luther. I think about what a harrowing tale Patrick Radden Keefe has woven in Say Nothing, a true story of murder and memory in Northern Ireland. But once I'm completely awake, a gravitational pull takes hold, and I am once more bedeviled by our preposterous president. I flip on the TV and gird for the endless stream of vitriol coming from the White House, bracing for another day of overflowing, overlapping, overwrought news stories about Trump. I'm sapped before I rise. As Mayor Pete said on his Fox town hall about the national Trump preoccupation, quote, "It is the nature of grotesque things that you cannot look away," unquote. My head hurts, puzzling over whether Trump is just a big blowhard who's flailing around or a sinister genius laying traps to get himself impeached to animate the base ahead of the election. A minute ago, we were fixated on the half of the Mueller report that vividly details how Trump tried to shut down and hinder the Mueller investigation. But now the president has triggered the media's shock collar. So everyone is fixated on how he gave William Barr vast new powers to use the intelligence agencies to investigate the investigators. Just as Trump once wore out contractors, bankers, lawyers, and business people in New York with his combative, insulting, and wayward ways, now he's wearing out the political crowd as he tries to beat everybody here into submission with his daily, even hourly onslaught of outrage piled upon outrage. Journalists must not become inured to Trump's outlandish, transgressive behavior. Mitch McConnell, Barr, and almost everyone else in the GOP have made themselves numb to his abhorrent actions because of self-interest. But for those who are concerned about the scarring of the American psyche, it is exhausting to find the vocabulary to keep explaining over and over how beyond the pale and out of the norm the 45th president is. How do you ratchet up from remarkable, extraordinary, unprecedented? What words can you use about someone who considers pardoning war criminals on Memorial Day, who wants to make it simpler for adoption agencies to bar same-sex couples, who circumvents Congress to complete arms deals to benefit the same Saudis who are clearly culpable in the case of the dismembered Washington Post columnist? Pete B. and Nancy Pelosi have both mastered the art of puncturing Trump, far better than his Republican primary debate rivals did. Quote, "I don't have a problem standing up to somebody who was working on season 7 of Celebrity Apprentice when I was packing my bags for Afghanistan," Pete B. told the Post's Robert Costa, saying that he took a dim view of Trump's bone spurs excuse to get out of serving in Vietnam. Pelosi winds Trump up when she drips condescension worthy of a Jane Austen grande dame, saying she will pray for the president or pleading for someone to stage an intervention with the poor soul. After Pelosi remarked that the president was engaged in a cover-up, Trump dynamited his own meeting with Crazy Nancy, as he called her. His "I'm not crazy, you're crazy" rebuttal to Pelosi echoed his "I'm not a puppet, you're a puppet" line to Hillary Clinton during the debate. Trump tweeted a video of Pelosi that was manipulated to make her look as if she were slurring her words. "Well, I don't know about the videos," the president told reporters. Let's try that again. Quote, "Well, I don't know about the videos," unquote, the president told reporters as he left on his trip to Japan. Quote, "He does outrageous, nasty, destructive things, knowing full well he's crossing a line, then he pretends he didn't," unquote, says Trump biographer Tim O'Brien. Quote, "He has spent 5 decades going to gossip columnists, radio shows, TV interviews, and newspapers to stick a knife into almost anybody who crosses his path that he doesn't like, and he revels in it. Then there is something amazing in the Energizer Bunny aspect of his nastiness and his ignorance. He doesn't care what people think about how mean or dumb he is. He just keeps going," unquote. O'Brien said Pelosi, quote, "hit on something that is core to his con. His whole life is about the cover-up. He has covered up his academic record, his health reports, his dalliances with women, his finances, his family history, even while he was saying he was the most transparent president in history. His Treasury Secretary was across town telling Congress, quote, 'I'm not giving you the president's tax returns,' unquote. Quote, "One of the biggest motivating factor in Trump's life, other than food, greed, sex, and revenge, is myth-making. Deep down, he knows he's a pathological liar, and he's not the person he says he is. But any time anyone pierces that veil, it sends him into a rage. It's wearing, not letting, this petulant man wear us all out." So, I don't know how many words that was, but it was a complete waste of time. the entire article. It said nothing. I'll say it again. She communicated nothing. Okay, now it is full of things that are used, little trigger words that are used to bait Republicans, conservatives into reacting and hopefully overreacting. But the paragraph I really want to deal with for the moment is this one right here. Journalists must not become inured to Trump's outlandish, transgressive behavior. Mitch McConnell, Barr, and almost everyone else in the GOP have made themselves numb to his abhorrent actions because of self-interest. And that was the paragraph that Hugh Hewitt was citing this morning when he was having his viewers call to tell him what that meant to them. And the most fantastic part of this was that Hugh Hewitt was leading them to conclude that Maureen Dowd was insulting all GOP voters. That she was referring to, she was treating them as, or referring to them as abhorrents and despicables and terrible people and evil. Well, none of those words appear in her column, none of it. That is what Hugh Hewitt infers from the article. This is exactly what the left wants morons like Hugh Hewitt to do. The left wants the right to do its work for them. Then they have clean hands. Okay, I've always said it is gauche to show up at a cocktail party with blood on your hands. Okay, you always let somebody else do your work for you. If you can get your enemies to destroy themselves, much better than you destroying your enemies. Because you stand there with a smile on your face and say, what? I don't know what you're talking about. I was at the cocktail party the whole time. The purpose of this particular article is to put pressure on a constituency and a person. The person, President Trump. If Maureen Dowd and other people in the news media can create enough pressure, they hope to get the President of the United States to simply resign. Or maybe they're looking to get him to have some kind of a health crisis or something. But either way, one of the things they're not looking for is to impeach him. There's talk about it, but the talk is there to create pressure. Because if they impeach, again, they end up with blood on their hands. The left doesn't like that. The left likes their cocktail parties. Okay? And they want to show up with clean hands. The best way to do that is get people to resign. Get people to confess, to incriminate themselves. And the best way to do that is you make hints and suggestions and then wait for people to swallow the bait and try to defend themselves from non-existent accusations. Remember that arbitrary statements are just that. They're arbitrary. There's no evidence. There's no proof. It's just an arbitrary claim. The thing you must do in the face of an arbitrary claim is ignore it. Okay, if you don't, you condemn yourself. You do your opponent's work for him. Okay, in this particular case, for Maureen Dowd. And that's exactly what Hugh Hewitt is doing. He is demoralizing the very people that he's counting on to take action, at least in some, if not now, then at election time. He's expecting them to, of course, vote Republican or conservative, perhaps vote for Trump. I'm not sure where Hugh Hewitt's been on Trump. I know Glenn Beck was no fan a long time ago of Donald Trump and still really isn't, although he has since acknowledged that Trump is a much better president than he expected him to be. but I'm not sure where Hugh Hewitt stands. Hugh Hewitt always likes to pretend that he's neutral or something. But in any case, why demoralize your audience? Why, and this is one of the things that really bothers me about the pundits today, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Hugh Hewitt, everybody, all of them. After you're done listening to the show, you want to run down, get in your car, drive down the street, and start flipping people off. I mean, that's all I ended up doing. I listened to Rush Limbaugh, then I listened to Sean Hannity, then I listened to John and Ken, actually I start off in the morning, then with Hugh Hewitt, and then Glenn Beck, and then get to Rush Limbaugh et al. So by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, as I'm driving down the street, I'm doing my work, you bet I'm flipping everybody off, because I am ticked off, and I've got nowhere to go with it. It's not constructive. So I'm either ticked off and or depressed. So, and it all comes because Hugh Hewitt doesn't have any integrity. The key to integrity: read carefully, listen carefully. There's a lot of Maureen Dowd uses a lot of, again, trigger words. Outlandish, transgressive. What does transgressive mean? Does she define it? No. Who is he? Who is it that's supposedly doing this transgression? Oh, I guess Trump. Okay, so what is he transgressing, or who? When, where? No answer. Outlandish. Okay, so what's outlandish? No answer. GOP have made themselves numb to his abhorrent actions. Okay, well, what do you mean by abhorrent? What kind of actions that he's taken that are abhorrent? No answer. And they do so because of self-interest. Self-interest in what? No answer. Let me see, we can look at other parts of the, that's good enough. I'm not going to go through the whole article, but if you read it carefully and ask yourself the questions, this one is good. My head hurts puzzling over whether Trump is a big blowhard who's flailing around, or a sinister genius laying traps to get himself impeached to animate the base ahead of the election. What is that supposed to mean? Don't fill in the blanks for these people. Read it, take it at face value. And when you take it at face value, you realize it doesn't make a damn bit of sense. It communicates nothing. Another reason why it communicates nothing is not just because she doesn't define her terms, but because she fails to make value statements. The left has no values. The left is nihilistic. It can't have values. Doesn't make any sense to. So, if you don't have values, you can't make judgments. If you can't make judgments, you can't make a point. If you can't make a point, you cannot communicate. She makes no points in this at all. My head hurts puzzling over whether Trump is a big blowhard, is flailing around, or a sinister genius laying traps to get himself impeached to animate the base ahead of the election. Is that wrong? Whatever all this means, let's just pretend we understand what she's trying to get at here. Is it wrong? Is that what she's saying? That he's wrong to be a blowhard that's flailing around? Is he wrong to be a sinister genius to lay traps to get himself impeached? Is it wrong to animate the base ahead of the election? Or is it right? Or is it what? Or is it neutral? Is she trying to say there's no value to it one way or another? Don't know. As Ayn Rand always said, no answer. So the whole article's like that. You read paragraph to paragraph to paragraph and ask yourself, what is she trying to communicate here? You should be coming up when you read this column with a question mark. That's it. It doesn't excite you. It doesn't make you mad. It's just, what are you babbling about? And it's one of the best ways to deal with, because you're going to get lefties in your life that are going to use this article to bait you. They're going to quote pieces of it to try to get you to react or to overreact and look like you have a guilty conscience, or look like you have something to hide, or look like you have something to be ashamed of. Don't do it. Don't go for it. One of the best answers you can come up with is, what are you babbling about? Make them do their work themselves. I can be convinced if a lefty comes up to me and lays it out and says, this is why life does not begin at conception, but begins, 20 weeks down the line. And you can explain it and show, bing, 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 bing. This is your evidence, this is your proof, and whatnot. And I can be satisfied that all this is done on the up and up. I can check it, I can research it. I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong. But they never do that. They never, ever do that. They like to make it seem as though they have knowledge you don't have. They're bluffing. Don't take their bluff. So, and that brings me to the conclusion of another episode of The Drill. And until next time, thank you very much for listening, and have a great day.